number 8.
We've got number 8.
Number 6. I'm innocent.
7.
But your microphone's down at your feet.
What?
Your microphone's down at your feet.
I know, I'm just thinking.
Oh, okay.
We don't know what that is.
Look in that box and see if it's still there.
Anybody up here number 8?
Mm-mm.
I'll just turn it off on the board.
Turn it off. Turn that one off. It's off. This is why you can
That should do it.
sound system is good.
So,
Guess not.
well,
I have no idea. Do you? It was fine last night.
do any of them have their cell phones?
Cell phones, maybe? Try cell phones? Can you turn your cell phones off if you're in here? Maybe just see if that's it. I'm so sorry.
I know, what, the hand mic. Eureka.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Rita, when you're ready, would you do a roll call, please?
I'd be happy to do that. Mr. Dougherty,
Here.
Vice Chair Murphy,
Here.
Mrs. Smith. Here. Mr. Roach,
Here.
Chairman Smith.
Here.
Let the record also show that present are the town manager, Mr. Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, and myself, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Rita. You all have had the minutes in advance, and hopefully you've had a chance to read them. If there are any corrections or deletions or additions, if not, I'd like a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Moved and seconded. Rita?
Mr. Dougherty? Yes. Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Roach?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes. Okay, are there any additions, withdrawals, deferrals, or rearrangements to the agenda items that we know of? Okay, everybody's seen them? We're good. You see in front of you the future meeting dates. The next meeting is March 25th, and then April 22nd and May 27th. If any of the members of the committee are not going to be here on any of those dates, please let Rita know as soon as possible. Okay, if not, we'll move into the public hearing. Does anyone have any declaration of ex parte communication? I've met, as many of us have probably met with staff over a few items on the agenda, but not with anybody else. Okay, Rita, would you administer the oaths to anyone who is going to speak today? Would you please stand and raise your right hand?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And would you see that the assistant clerk has your name before you leave?
And if you choose to talk later in the meeting, you can be sworn in at that time. Okay, the first and second item on the agenda I have a bit of a conflict with both items 1 and 2 because I am the neighbor and in one case joining in the application, so I'll need to recuse and step down from my position for those items, and the vice chair will take over.
Thanks, Tom. For the record, Malcolm Murphy, Vice Chairman, continuing with the meeting. And we move on to item 1 on the agenda, which is a level 3 application by Luke Little and Stoddard on behalf of Stephen and Helen Benjamin and Thomas and Bettina Smith. Who is presenting? Yes, please come to the podium.
Yes.
Yeah. Oops, sorry.
morning. My name is Jeff Arquette with Schulke, Biddle and Stoddard. I'm here with John Gunlock with the Benjamins, and I want to start with saying I apologize. Bill Stoddard couldn't make it. He was the lead designer on this. His son, he's under COVID call at his house. His son in school was exposed to it. So I'll try to muddle my way through and try to answer any questions I can. But if I could start with just a quick outline of the whole project. And sorry, my glasses are fogging up already. The proposed project includes the construction of a new bulkhead, excavation of uplands to create an L-shaped mooring area approximately 100 feet by 130 feet. You can see that on some of the cross sections over here. The dock and lift for the Benjamin property, the dock and bulkhead for the Smith property, and the removal of an existing bulkhead. This will provide, of course, greater water frontage to allow Mr. Benjamin to moor his boat and also allow water access for Mr. Smith's property. There's going to be a grade of the natural slope upwards from the existing bulkhead to the house. The proposed project will not alter existing grades. There will be a tiered retaining wall constructed to maintain the existing elevations of the property. And again, we can go over the cross sections in more detail if you'd like. In amongst that, the bottom two sections over here on the right, the colored ones, where I just mentioned was the tiered bulkheads and the tiered retaining wall. In between them, there'll be a continuous planter area to buffer, the side of it all. And let's see, top retaining wall, which you see back here, just a little bit of it here. It'll have a 4-inch lip above existing grade to direct all runoff from the house over to parts of Mr. Benjamin's property to settle out and retain, so nothing goes in the river. The bulkhead is 5.5 feet above mean high water line, and the mean high water line was established by the DEP. Let's see, the measurement and definition of the mooring area is shown a little smaller over there where you see the boats. That was all presented to Mr. Taylor and Mr. Dunham at a pre-construction meeting. They have reviewed the configuration and received approval from the town attorney that it meets the intent of the code. The dock at the Benjamin and Smith property is 5 feet wide and complies with the town requirements. And let's see, the permitting, if it should move forward, would go through the FDEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. The new bulkhead and dock, which I just discussed, will be permitted through an exemption. And the removal of the existing bulkhead will be an individual permit with both of those agencies. And the anticipation construction schedule is hopefully start in May 2021 and complete by September 2021, all, of course, in accordance with your code. And I think I muddled through it okay, but if I can try to answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
I would just like to state for the record that while the statements were accurate in that I don't think that staff found anything contrary to the code, we don't want to abrogate your responsibility to apply the code. So we're not giving an opinion that you need to be bound by that this meets the code. You have complete independent judgment as a reviewing board. So I was just
if I said it wrong, I apologize.
No, that's right. I just wanted to clear that up for the record that town staff has not officially made a statement that this meets all the code requirements. We have made a recommendation, it's in the staff report, but you still have your responsibility to review it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask you point two in the notes? It said that there was incorrect information and you were going to submit additional information. Did the town receive that?
No.
I can address that if you'd like. Bill, of course, filled me in on everything. That was another engineer that did that, and he was the structural engineer who's mainly the retaining walls and the bulkhead and everything. Mm-hmm. And his dimensions on, I believe it's the Smith dock, are incorrect by quite a bit. I think he says 95 feet on the dock length, and it's only 30 feet. So that's quite a bit. And you can see the other two numbers below it don't anywhere near add up to the 90 either. So.
Okay. Thank you.
And what is the length on the other one? I can't, the other dock?
The length on the other dock.
The bigger one.
Yes, sir. Let me, grab this. There's a whole lot of dimensions in
Yeah.
there. Sorry, it is. It's about 65 feet.
Okay.
It's about 65 feet. I don't see it exactly.
Okay.
And obviously, we usually ask if there's any feedback from neighbours, it seems everyone here is
I
involved, but,
can't honestly tell you that one.
yeah, but were there any additional comments from anyone in the town?
Yes, there were some. They had indicated that they would be at the meeting.
Okay,
Nothing in writing.
okay, that's fine. Is there, sorry,
No, absolutely.
is there anyone who would like to speak?
Let me get out of the way.
If you could come to the podium, please. Thank you.
Excuse me.
I'm Joe Morris, 1124 Hidden Harbor Drive. You might understand that this is not against any code at all. This is in keeping with the code.
In terms of trade, your qualification?
Yes, that's correct. We didn't see anything in the code that prohibited this sort of activity.
Right. So that, there are a few questions I have. First of all, how are you gonna remove the fill?
I would,
Are you gonna move the fill, the dirt you're taking out?
I'd be happy to.
yeah, please.
Yeah, I need you to be up there for the minutes, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, excuse me. The sequence of construction will be, all the fill, all the grading, all the new bulkheads would be put in place before the old bulkhead is removed. So all the work would be done on significantly Mr. Benjamin's property and a little bit of Mr. Smith's property, all in the drive.
That's not what I'm asking. How are you removing the dirt? Where's it going? How's it getting out?
I don't know where it ultimately goes, but it'll be shipped off by a contractor, a certified contractor to an approved facility.
Not in a barge.
No, sir, no, sir. I know that for
Taken
sure.
out of the road.
I assume that's correct.
So
yes,
that's,
sir.
those 80,000 pound trucks, the road's not gonna handle that kind of trucking. So that we'd want some provision to repave the road if they're gonna do that. Because they're gonna destroy the road running, how many yards taking out?
I don't know that answer.
A lot.
I don't know the answer yet.
Okay, so I want that taken care of. Also, I don't see anything here as to the screening on the north side of the property at all.
Where?
The north side,
Yes, sir.
it's the north side.
Well,
Right here.
we're not doing any construction in that area, other than putting in the new bulkhead here, and that's all,
So there-
this is all Mr. Benjamin's property, I believe.
So we're gonna look in and see this with the lights and everything else, it's not being hidden at all. There's no buffer whatsoever.
Other than the, 100 feet of his own property, I don't believe so.
The gentleman at the back is raised. his
Oh, I'm
hand.
sorry. John?
If you stand on the property.
Please, thank you.
You can come in and answer.
And then
that,
please
please.
state your name for the record.
I might just go this way.
I'm John Gunlock, I'm the caretaker of the property. If you stand, and I looked at this the other day, if you stand up here where where the marina will be, the water renovation will be, the furthest east and the furthest north, it is not visible from, your property is not visible from that point, so.
I'm to the north, not the east.
I know, but I'm saying furthest east and furthest north. The furthest northeast corner, your property is not visible from the waterfront renovation.
I have to drive down this road from time to time, and I can look straight in. You took all the foliage out of it and look straight in and see this thing. Am I to see this 30-foot high boat all day when I drive down that road?
No, you will not.
I won't.
As of vegetation replanting, we have not addressed that at this stage right now, because as you said, there will be trucks coming in and out of there, and that'll be done at a later date. We will be putting up the $5,000 bond that the town requires for any damages that are done to the road, and so there will be a damage.
How much you putting up?
It was $5,000, I believe, is required. There's a $5,000 damage bond that will be put up when this begins.
$5,000 is not gonna do that road at all. And for the record, I'm a developer, so I understand this kind of stuff that goes on from time to time. We look straight in, we're gonna see this right here. The lights are a concern of ours. We want some some sort of foliage over here, some buffer, so we don't have to see this every time we drive up and down the street. And I'm not talking about a few pine trees.
No, But I will say that you cannot see this unless you were to walk to the east and look down into the property. You will not be able to see it.
No, when you look north, you can see it right away. I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. I can see it all day. It's visual, it's right there.
You can see it right now, but you will not be able to see it. If you were in your home, you will not be able to see
I
it.
understand that, but I happen to drive up and down the road from time to time, and I look straight ahead, I can see it. I would like it buffered so we
I
can
will,
see it,
I will
that's all.
present that to Mr. Benjamin, and I will have them address it.
And the fill going out is gonna be running up down this road from time to time. Are you gonna do normal working hours?
It'll be during normal working hours, but it'll also be during the summer, so that no one will be here. All this is gonna be taking place, out of season, so that it wouldn't be impacting any of the neighbors.
It'll all be for the code of the town.
For the code.
Okay, and the lighting, the lighting on this, we looked at the code, and the code calls for one downward facing low watt bulb on each dock, which means there would be 3 of them here. That's why I understand the code. Is that correct or incorrect?
What are the questions there?
This is the light fixtures on the dock. Here's section 3.
Yeah, sure. So we do have, a section in the code, so we can make sure that complies with section, 66-369 sub G, relative to lighting fixtures on the dock.
Okay. If we don't wanna see any elevated lights, then they should face downward over here, as if lights do over here, so it wouldn't affect us whatsoever. Anything else, Jen? Okay.
Mr. Morris, can I summarize so we make sure we have the points you want to address? One is addressing the fill and the attention to potential damage on the road. And I ask the question, there's a bond for $5,000. In the worst scenario where it's significantly more than that, does the town have a way to go back to the owner and say, this is now more than $5,000, we basically be reimbursed for any expenditure as a result of that?
Yeah, if there is damage that we can.
I mean, this is a public road.
Yeah.
It is a public road, I can.
Public road.
Okay. The other one was the point about the vegetation. It isn't there obviously when the trucks are coming in, but there will be vegetation, a proposal for vegetation that's going to ensure.
After the whole project is said and done, there's going to be, vegetation we're looking at re-landscaping that area, yes.
Okay. The other point was that there's no elevated lights. And that was not, so that was.
Right, I mean, the lighting that they put on the docks will have to meet the town code here.
Well, what's that code, Jim?
66-369 dock, and it's subparagraph G.
Subparagraph
G.
Thank you.
I think we should understand what the buffer is gonna be before they do it, then do the buffer after. I'd like to know upfront what the buffer is gonna be on the north side of the property.
Now, we do have a level 2 landscaping plan that is the next item on the agenda for the.
That is the entire south side of the property between Mr. Smith and.
Okay, okay.
It just goes east, we need something that goes north.
Is that something that you'd be willing to modify in advance? This is a level 2. Okay.
Well, the level 2, if it come up, is gonna be done in concurrence with the seawall, we're gonna be ripping up so much, we're gonna do it all at the same time. And this will be done after because, the north side will be done after because we have all the construction going on, we don't wanna do it.
I don't think it should be done there, it should be all done up front, so we understand what's going in. I don't want it after the fact.
When this goes to the commission?
So this will go to the commission. There is a separate level 2 approval just for the Benjamin property, which is the large property that we're talking about, not Mr. Smith's property. The ARPB can decide that they want to elevate that to the town commission, so the town commission can also review it in conjunction with this approval. It appears that Mr. Benjamin's agent has indicated a willingness to address some of Mr. Morris's concerns on the north side of the property. So we could include that as part of that application to make sure that those are addressed at this time. Now, obviously, there will be a lot of construction, so it will not be done immediately, but they would have an approval that it satisfies the neighbors and is all approved and required to be done.
Would that meet your needs, Mr. Morris?
It works.
Is that something that the applicant would be okay with? Okay,
So
so,
we move forward here with the recommendations for the level 3.
so with this application, this is the level 3, so we're just talking about what has been presented, none of the landscaping. We will then close this application, move on to the next application, which is the level 2. We will review that, the board will review that, in accordance with our rules. And then we will the ARPB can make a decision in accordance with what I just said, to recommend that be elevated to the town commission, and you would make the recommendation to either approve or deny, to the town commission at the next meeting.
The level 2.
The level 2, yeah. So that would then appear at the same time as this application that we're listening to now, at the next town commission meeting and be heard all
And
together.
then the entire project can be considered at one time.
That's right, yes. And now there will be 2 separate applications, so they will address one at a time, but they will be done at the same meeting, back to back, so it all.
Sure. Okay. Are there any comments from the board? Yeah. Okay. Is there any further?
Somebody else wants to
Yeah,
comment?
please. If you could come to the podium and give your name.
My name is William Martin. I live at 12 Hidden Harbor Drive South. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Hidden Harbor Drive, but it is a rather unique road in the village of Gulfstream. As you drive in, there's a canopy over the road that is not seen too often, but is certainly prized in the area. When the property to the north of Hidden Harbor was recently subdivided 5 or 6 years ago, there was a provision made to protect that canopy because it was considered so unique and so valuable to the area. One of my concerns is if you've got 50 or 100 truckloads, dump truckloads going up that road, what's going to happen to the canopy, which is only 15 feet, 20 feet in certain spots above the road. There was recently some work done on the canopy by an individual who didn't realize that there are regulations prohibiting it. And his attempts to correct the damage that was done to the canopy, you can look at it and realize that those corrections are going to take 5 or 10 years to grow back in. So if these dump trucks start ripping limbs off of trees and damaging the canopy, it's almost irreplaceable, at least in my lifetime. They're also on the north side of the property, where I believe the trucks would have to exit. There are a number meaning somewhere between 4 and 6 very large trees. I think they're noted on one of the maps over here, having diameters up to 60 inches across. These trees have to be 30 or 40 years old. I don't know how trucks are going to maneuver around them, and I suspect that at some point a request is going to be made to remove the trees. Those trees form an integral part of the canopy, and obviously you can't replace a 30 or 40-year-old tree, when the work is all done. So I believe that this has the potential for being detrimental to the valuation of the properties on the road. I bought my property, which is the last property on the road, which is the last vacant property on the road, I bought it about 3.5, 4 years ago. I paid what I felt was a very high price for it was because of the approach to canopy as you drive in off of A1A, the bird sanctuary that runs the entire length, or almost the entire length of the south side of the road. It's a very rural feel for being here in Florida. I walk it each night with my dog, and it's almost like being in Vermont or something. It's very, very low key, very peaceful. The last thing I want to do is walk by the property in question and look over and see a 70-foot boat pulled in the middle of somebody's backyard with lights on it, or lights on the boat. Lights on the boat may not be covered by your dock light regulations, and theoretically could be on all night with a boat illuminated and sitting in the middle of what used to be a 1 or 2 acre backyard. I'm also concerned, and I would think you would be more so than myself, as to what kind of precedent this would be setting for the village. My current understanding is if I came to you and said, I want to knock out a 20-foot section of my seawall and put in excavate and put a slip in so I can back my boat into my property, I would expect you to say, that's very nice for you, but if we let everybody in Gulfstream do that to their property, this would no longer look like Gulfstream. I'm concerned about the precedent that's being set here about allowing people to dig into their property and build a marina or build a multi-boat slip. Doesn't seem in keeping with the neighborhood. I think this whole proposal is out of character with what one would expect to find in Gulfstream. I would expect to see something like this in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, but not in a sleepy town of Gulfstream. I agree with the Morrises that it's critical to have very thorough screening along the north edge of the property. I drive by 3-4 times a day, and up until a year ago when they started removing some of the vegetation that's along that perimeter, again, you felt like you were just driving through a bird sanctuary. They've removed roughly half of the vegetation that was there, so now you look into their property, which is a different look. It's not a bad look because it's all you're looking across is 2 acres of grass. But if you're going to start looking in and seeing a 70-foot yacht and a 30-some-odd-foot boat up on a boat lift sitting up in the air, quite a different look than what I thought I was getting myself into when I bought the property that I bought. So I think this would have a major impact on the neighborhood, detrimental to the values of our properties in the neighborhood. And I think it would be setting a bad precedent in the village. Thank you.
Can I ask for a response to Mr. Martin's points, please?
Yes, I'm not gonna comment, excuse me, I'm gonna comment on the precedent because that's not up to me.
Yeah, but the canopy, should we go in
But
order?
the canopy, I will address, we are not planning on removing any trees, and they're not going to be impacted in any way, shape, or form. The town of Gulfstream has actually come in there. I've met with some of your arborists who have come in and raised the canopy along that road so that fire trucks have been able to access it. The trucks that are going to be coming in there are no bigger than fire trucks. There's a property on Hidden Harbor North that has semis coming in on a daily basis and trucks coming in on everybody's favorite neighbor across the way there from Morris's. He has trucks coming in on a daily basis, and they don't remove the canopy in any way, shape, or form. So the dump truck should not impact the canopy at all. And we're not planning on removing any of the trees, as we previously said, and it's not in the plan to do so. And so it should not be affected.
Well, I know, and Mr. Morris probably knows much better than myself, they're all different sized dump trucks. I mean, some dump trucks are what I would consider normal dump trucks, then you see dump trucks that are much higher, and you see dump trucks that are like trailer trucks, extra long trucks. And if you're moving out a tremendous amount of fill, I would suspect that it would behoove whoever's bidding on it to be taking out as few loads as possible, and he'd be accomplishing that by using as big equipment as possible. So to say that a dump truck can fit where a fire truck fits, that might be true, but if it's an oversized piece of equipment, it may not be true. So I think some kind of stipulation should be put in by the board, that if you're gonna proceed with this, that, equipment must be of a size that doesn't damage, and certainly there should be some penalty if it does, because any damage that's incurred is almost irreplaceable. Once the damage is done, it's done.
I understand your concern, and we support this side, but as I stated, trucks have been coming in, and I can't say what size they're gonna bring, I don't know. I'm not gonna make comments now. But the amount of trucks I've seen coming up and down is not impacted, and the town of Gulfstream themselves have come and raised the canopy in the last, I believe it was last summer, I just talked to the guy out there who was from the town that was raising up, so that fire trucks and everybody else could come in and not be impacted by the canopy.
So just going back to sort of being a good neighbor and addressing some of these concerns, I would just ask that this is a level 3, so it will be before the town commission. This is a neighbor who has issues that you appear to be willing to address, and maybe at the next meeting you can agree to a certain size, present that to the town commission and say, we understand that there is an issue with the canopy and some thoughts that it may be damaged. There's also an issue with the impact on the road, and we plan to address those resident concerns by this. And if you would agree to that and submit that to the town commission, they can make that a condition of approval if that's something that you and the neighbors can agree to. So, I mean, I think that would at least go a little bit of a way to ensuring that the canopy is not damaged. And if that is a condition of approval, then there would be penalties for violation.
Skip, the other issue is they're gonna excavate this with backhoe. It's a big machine with a big boom. Getting that in on the road and getting in and not damaging trees is very difficult. And I don't know how they're gonna do that.
Be brought in on a big trailer.
Well, yeah, but this is a big machine, and it's got a big boom. That's the only way they get the stuff out. So that's gonna create a problem, and I don't want that to be our problem.
We had one last summer come in to replace the septic tank, and it didn't impact the canopy at all.
That's a little small backhoe that you're gonna use to move this fill.
The one they brought in, they had to get a bigger one to come in to do it, because of the bedrock underneath.
Did you see it? Skip, I didn't see it.
Y'all, it was while you guys weren't here over the summer, so it didn't impact anybody.
I just want people to be aware that it's gonna do some damage to the road.
So if we move forward with that point where it has to be addressed, if it goes forward, where the equipment will not damage the canopy.
Yes.
Can we move on to the second point, please, where you said about precedent?
Oh, excuse me.
No, I'm making sure the precedent, basically,
Oh, thank you.
we have to ensure it follows code. So the precedent is, as we've already heard, it has to address code. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jeff.
My name is Jennifer Morris, I'm Mr. Morris's wife, neighbor. Two things, this area, I believe, since now we've learned that the bill's gonna come out by truck and not by barge. And I'm assuming that this north section where these large trees are that Skip was referring to are gonna have to come out in order to get the trucks in there. So, have you all come along, you've all seen the project, you've all walked the property, so you know. So, the canopy has a seal, the sanctuary has a seal, and now you're gonna have this 75-foot section that is gonna be obliterated. So, when they go to retransplant it, assuming that this gets approved, it's never gonna look the same. It doesn't look the same already because of all the underbrush clearing. And I have had some conversations with the neighbors about that because you can see right through now when you drive out. So I can see behind the guest cottage, propane tanks, a rusty wall, a boat trailer that I've asked to be removed, an empty boat trailer, which is not by code. Mr. Benjamin has a lot of toys, there's a lot of trucks, a lot of cars, a lot of boats, and now we can see a lot more. And you didn't used to be able to see it, and I didn't care when you couldn't see it. But when I drive out every day, I see it. I did ask them to remove some garbage cans they were leaving out, which they kindly did, because the boat trailer is still there. And it's unsightly. We had the fortune of having, good fortune of having drinks with Mrs. Stewart and Mrs. Tui. And I believe that she had in her deed that the property could never be subdivided. And I know this isn't technically a subdivision, but this is a real destruction of this beautiful piece of property with this historic, gorgeous home that I've been in. It's a beautiful home designed by the architect that built Mar-a-Lago, Shangri-La. It's really sad. And this backyard is going to look like hell with a boat all the way up, 100-something feet up into the backyard. And I think it's a disgrace that Gulfstream would even consider allowing this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I go on to the point, the second point that Mr. Martin addressed, the fact of precedent? The precedent is it has to meet code. Whatever we do, it has to meet code. But the third point about screening was raised by Mr. Morris as well, and I think we're going to make sure we address that, as we said, going into when it has to be proposed at the same time as this moves forward, that it has to be considered and meet the approval not only of the Commission if it goes forward, but also the fact that it's your feedback as well, that it addresses the concerns of landscaping from the north. So those are the 3 points.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
please,
a follow-up
Mr. Martin.
question on that?
Yeah.
Has anything like this ever been done in the village? I mean, I have a boat and I go up and down the waterway. I'm not familiar with anybody who has a cut into their property and has a boat sitting on the land side of their seawall. I don't know that this is, you say it's within code. I don't think code's ever been questioned regarding this issue.
Okay, so we know things.
Yeah, I mean, the codes can be reactive in many cases, so if this is something that is essentially allowed by the code now or not prohibited, then we can certainly look at changing the code if there is a negative reaction from the residents. I mean, this is a very unique property that does have some waterfront already, and he's expanding that. We have a number of properties in town that do have submerged land, that have deeded, dry land and submerged land. So, I would hesitate to, try to impact those properties too much and devalue them in some way by restricting their ability to do something they can currently do. That gets into, regulatory takings area, which we certainly want to avoid, but we can look into that and examine that. But at this point, there does not appear to be anything in the code that prohibits this kind of activity on your property.
Right, thank you. Mrs. Morris.
I have one more comment. We bought our house 12 years ago, and I've had the great fortune of having to watch.
I really need you at the microphone, thank you.
We've had to watch what's going on at Marty O'Boyle's house for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to see graffiti, nonsense, and there's nothing. You guys did whatever you did, your agreement with him. And we had a ripped up street, garbage is still out there, and there was no recourse for me. I've had to look at this for 12 years. And the police, they do nothing, they won't talk to him. It's ridiculous. Let's skip. We bought this beautiful street, this beautiful property, this beautiful house that we love. I have my house impeccably landscaped. Then if you walk down there 24/7, it's gorgeous. And I've had to look at this, for 11 years. It's still going on. Pilings are being removed this morning that went in illegally. Nobody stopped him. So I just see when you guys allowed to have them there and you had no way to stop it. I just think this just doesn't help our little neighborhood. It's so beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful home with a beautiful backyard. And now I can see right up in there, and I just think that this is just sets a really, really bad example for the town of what might be able to go on. And I think it's just been exacerbated for me by what Mr. O'Boyle has gotten away with.
did the staff, address the issue of the access of trucks going in and out when they looked at this project? You know, such that, you know, we were mentioning about the trees, large trees being removed, that,
Yeah, I mean, we did talk about, you know, what the possible, you know, the access of those trucks would be, and it's, what we were told was, you know, from the area that we're all talking about here today, I would like to say, I mean, if any of those trees have to come out because of that, those have to come back, at a minimum to the ARPB and, potentially to the town commission for any removal of any of those kind of trees. They can't just go out there because they don't have enough room and decide to take any of those trees down. That has to get approval.
From my understanding, you just made a comment on record that none of those trees are being removed, is that correct?
Correct. From the very beginning, those trees were taken into consideration so that they would not be impacted, that the trucks would be able to get around and access where they needed to go. Those trees have never been considered for removal, and they're not in the plan to be removed.
what would happen if in fact, a truck hit a tree and knocked it down? Would that tree have to be replaced at its present height?
They would need to have a reasonable replacement tree if that tree was removed.
Okay, so I mean, because in construction work, there is occasional damage that is not planned on, and, so that would be covered by
our code, yes, sir. It would have to be a reasonable replacement tree, and that would be something that we would either approve at a level 1 for the town manager, or, they would be coming back to the ARPB.
There is no replacement for those trees. The only way to handle this project if you're gonna excavate it is there are two driveways here, one on the east side, one on the west side. The trucks are gonna have to come in on the east side, in front of the house, and get in that way. They cannot come out on the road because you're gonna damage those trees. You cannot do this because the trees are there. The only entrance and exit has gotta be the east side of that property.
The only entrance and exit that the trucks can physically get through is the west side. There are big trees on the east side just as well as there are on the west side, and because of the turn, trucks cannot get through there.
So
I
you
don't
mean
agree with that at all.
are the trucks gonna go where the boat trailer is? Is that how they're gonna go around?
They're gonna come back, like the trucks that have been coming down there now, they'll back in, work full in, and then come around those trees or across the lawn.
So they're gonna go right where that boat trailer is, they're gonna go up and then go where the boat trailer is.
Go and come back in, and they're actually planning on bringing in some, drain-filled rocks, that way the trucks don't sink in and create more damage, that way they're not tearing up everything in that area and not creating an unsightly mess. They're planning to come in and build enough support for the trucks to come in, not impact the trees in any way, shape, or form. Those trees are tropical almonds, they're very hardy trees, half of them have been ripped out from previous hurricanes, but they're still coming in strong. They come back like weeds, I mean, they're very resilient trees, and so if they do get bumped into, they're not gonna be knocked over. Our plan is not to take them out, we don't want to impact them in any way, shape, or form.
You looked at the east entrance, you say you can't go out the east entrance.
Not with the big truck, or a dump truck.
I think a dump truck could do it, I don't think a dump trailer could do it.
I don't know the difference between the two, so I'm not gonna speak to you on that. But a truck, we've had, large trucks try to come in that way, they've been unable to, so they've had to come around because of the way the turning, the chicaning there, there's a big ficus on one corner of it.
All right, so they're gonna come down the street, they're gonna back up in that road and pull forward, not damage any trees.
Correct.
Why can't this still be taken out by barge?
A question I can't answer.
How about the engineer, why can't this still be taken out by barge?
I don't believe that canal's deep enough. If you look at the soundings on one of those reports, it's only 1.3 feet deep down by the bulkhead. And
How are you gonna get a 65-foot yacht in there?
And if I can finish that first one, and the sequence of construction is to do everything upland of the bulkhead in the dry, cleaner, more environmentally friendly, all that. So, yeah, a barge is out of the question.
You're not gonna dredge the canal after you get this done?
If they are or aren't, I don't know. That's nowhere near part of this application.
Well, 1.5 feet is not gonna get a 70-footer, and if you don't dredge the canal, it doesn't bother me, because you're not gonna get the boat in.
Okay.
Any more comments from the board?
Well, I have a point. There's way too much here, way too much for me to opine, give a vote on. I just think More study needs to be made. I'm not gonna vote on this thing today, so.
Well, we can't vote on this whether we vote to approve.
Recommendation.
Yeah, Charlie's up. Aye. Yeah. It's that,
I have one.
yeah, sorry, George.
I'm sorry.
So, I know the part that we're talking about, but, you know, the outside agencies that have to talk about this, which agencies are those and what do they decide?
I can comment on that if you'd like. Bill Stoddard has met with Army Corps of Engineers and the FDEP. They're the two main ones that do all this. And the new bulkhead construction, because it's landward of the mean high water line, is completely exempt from their rules. Of course, not your rules. And also, the retaining wall, everything is exempt from the Army Corps and the FDEP, just landward of the mean high water line. The new bulkhead, the existing bulkheads that's there will require an individual permit, a normal old permit from the FDEP, which is a joint one from the Army Corps to remove that. And that's it.
But the new stuff has nothing to do with FTP.
Nothing to do with them. It is a permit exemption, which has to be applied for, but it's already been ruled as exempt from both of them, the Corps and the DEP.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If I can just, a little comment on all the road access and everything. We're before you for specific stuff here. The owner's representative, the engineers, we'd be happy to work with you, access, dump truck access, fire truck access, trees, landscaping, outside of this. If I'm saying that correctly, we're here for, the three things on your list there. Basically the docks, the seawalls, all that. All the rest of the stuff, I completely understand. It's very concerning, obviously, to everybody, us included. And it's certainly something town staff and us and the owner can figure out. If I could just point it that way a little bit.
No, I take your points.
Yes, sir.
However, obviously, one of the major things we do as a board is listen to the community. And they're not divorced, these points. They're integral parts of what we're looking at today.
Sure.
And as Bob turned around, there were a number of things that yes, they've been verbally said on record, but my feeling is they need to be formally addressed to allay your concerns. Obviously, you've done an incredible amount of work, the attention, but there are genuine concerns. When I raised the point about we don't have the correct information now, if that had been the only thing, and it's level 3, it goes to the board, we could go with that, I presume. But, we might as well have the whole thing, the information, how you're going to mitigate these concerns is an integral part of this project.
I understand.
That's my understanding. Yes, Mr.
One more comment.
Mr. Morris, sorry, could you?
I would like the 2ED seriously reviewed, the spirit of it, that she did not want that property ever to be developed. I think that needs to be looked at by the board. Secondly, hearing that there's a 1.5 feet of water at the head of the canal, as you know, I'm assuming that our canal and that canal were built at the same time. Skips had to rebuild his seawall, the streets just rebuilt theirs, the Toscanis are doing theirs, we have to do ours, we're having issues, clearly the age, I'm assuming that side is a similar age. How do we know that the bulkhead head of that canal, when they start excavating, what condition it's in? How are they going to secure that? Would it collapse? Or are they going to secure it so that, you don't know the age of it? Ours is having a lot of issues. Mr. O'Boyle's is having a lot of issues. Good for him. So that's a serious concern to me, that you could have a breach, we're kind of low over there, our house is the closest, and that's something that I've thought about.
Thank you. Any more questions from the public? Board, any more questions? We need to make a motion about how to move forward, but I think you've heard.
I think it's difficult to make a motion here without some kind of resolution between the parties involved.
Now, if I could, Mr. Roach, real quick. So, Mr. Doherty mentioned that he felt uncomfortable voting without some further information maybe being presented. So what is available to you as part of our code is to defer it to the next ARPB meeting with specific information or points that you would like the applicant to address, which it seems like he's willing to do. So that would be a motion to.
Right. That's the motion we're looking for.
So there'd be a motion to defer this application to the March 25th ARPB meeting to address, and then whatever it is the board feels like, they need more information.
And not jumping ahead, but, you know, our second item on the agenda is the level 2 for the landscape, which is obviously related to it.
It may be that the applicant would be fine with deferring that to the next meeting as well.
It might be.
Has a little both at the.
Yeah, there's no point in considering the one, because there are so many variables that need to be addressed.
Right.
So we need a motion basically to consider this a time forward, because they may or may not be able to make the March 25th timeline. Can we make it open-ended, or do we have to stipulate?
It does need to be a time certain. I don't know if the applicant believes that they would have sufficient time in the next.
Well, I think I know the concerns, but I'd like to hear the concerns before I ask you to make it time specific, if that's okay.
I mean, we can always just, I think that probably for the neighbors, we need to have a good idea of when it needs to be, not, I was gonna suggest we defer it and then we can defer it again, but I think we need the residents here and know what we're going
We
to
need to address the concerns that have been raised here this morning.
I think so.
Yeah.
And they need to be able to know when this will be on the agenda again, so they can hear and make sure that those are addressed. And they can certainly feel free to send in correspondence once, if they're meeting with each other, to make sure that whatever points they have are addressed. Even if they cannot be at the meeting, they can always send in correspondence to the clerk that can be read into the record.
Right. So we need that motion, as you said, to accept.
I have a quick question.
Sorry, one more, Martin.
I just want to ask the board, along the lines of what, Mrs. Morris, brought up on the Chewy property, which is the property in question. Has the village looked at the deed on that property? Is there anything that she put in that deed that prohibits such development of the property? I mean, that would kind of change things dramatically if you were to uncover such a clause in the deed, which Mrs. Morris seems to think that there is a provision in the deed.
That's one of the items we'll evaluate in the next 30 days.
We could ask you to review, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, we could make that a condition. Not a condition.
I mean, you can just, staff is aware of that issue.
Yeah.
I've looked at, this parcel and the related parcel, the bird sanctuary was part of the property at some point, that's now town property, so. I have looked at all these deeds a lot, but maybe the most recent one, Mr. Benjamin, I can look over, and if there are any issues, I can certainly bring those, to the board.
Okay.
I don't know if that would be, I'll look into that.
Yeah, so if we have a broad term of review the deed. Okay.
I do have one quick question.
Please.
In order to prepare for this meeting, we have to have everything submitted a month in advance. If we're going to be, say, presenting at the next meeting, what would be the timeframe of having all the information that they
Well, that's what
require?
we're saying, we don't want to put pressures, unreasonable pressures on you, but also we need to make sure that the concerns are addressed. So there's no point saying the 25th and then it comes to the board and it's either not, it doesn't meet the concerns, or you aren't ready, right? So
I mean, it really would depend if the scope of the project was changing, then we would need revised drawings and all of that.
So
I think that the date is really more of the notice, so the neighbors can come in and review, the project and the application material.
Yeah.
So,
could we just do the term time certain?
again, I would just, I would like a specific time, so the neighbors can actually be at the meeting and understand exactly the date that this will be considered.
Okay.
I just want to be sensitive to them and not defer it.
And Mr. Chairman, I mean, like others, where the item has already been noticed, and we go to the next month, we can, then.
As we've done before.
Yeah, we've done that.
Okay. So we are going to make that the 25th of March. Okay. Who's going to go
How does, a question, how does the voting approval work now that the four of you keep the
I'm
recused?
sorry, Mrs. Morris, can you come to the, sorry, just
I don't know anything about
it's okay, it's just that it goes on record.
Oh, sorry. So there were five of you, there's now four,
Yep.
he's recused, and I assume somebody's not gonna replace him.
Yeah, we have a quorum, yeah, we do have a quorum.
You have an alternate.
Well, we have a quorum, we have
Oh,
enough people.
okay, so is it a 3-1?
Yes, ma'am, it is just a recommendation though.
Okay.
It's to the town commission, so either the recommendation would be 2-2 or 3-1, but for it to pass, if this was the final body, it would need to be a majority, which would be 3-1.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna make a recommendation
We're going to make a
that,
motion.
this issue gets, tabled to the next meeting under the proviso that the issues presented by the neighbors are addressed, by the applicant.
Yes.
Does that cover everything?
And do we need to be specific on the points?
It would be helpful
Please.
to the applicant and also
Be as
to the
specific
neighbors.
as possible.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That the canopy, entrance to Hidden Harbor would not be impacted in any way, that the removal of trees, not, that are of old age, would not occur, that, let me see, what else?
That's the road damage.
Road damage.
That road damage would be repaired, totally.
Landscaping and screening.
That the town look at the description of the neighborhood such that the neighbors are not impacted by the advent of a very large vessel, which has been stated that is incompatible with that neighborhood.
Just limited to the.
That's something that we can handle on the staff level.
You don't need us to make it a record, okay. The other thing we had was the vegetation screening from the north.
Oh, and that screening would be provided such that the vessel would not be visible from the north, right?
Yep.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm assuming that this vessel exists, or is it the purchase?
It exists.
Okay. So if any of you have walked or seen the yard and looked at the drawings, you can see that the east bulkhead where the yacht would be sitting is more than 50% of the way of the yard to the edge of the pool and the bulkhead. I've looked at the drawings. So it's way up there. So how tall is this yacht?
If I am standing on the boat itself, it's a single level. It's an old 1930 style boat, it's a newer boat, but it's an old 1930 style single level boat, 70 feet long. If it's in the water, it'll be down low, and with the retaining walls, you may not even see it at some point.
Oh.
And we're also planning on, with the vegetation that there's being planted around on the retaining wall up there, it will also add a buffer zone to it, so you may not even see the boat.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Well, but that doesn't cover the fact that in the future, someone else might bring a boat in that is, because they're 50 feet high.
Yes.
So I think that screening level still must be adhered to.
Well, that was a motion, I second that motion.
I think we've addressed, just to the floor, I think we've addressed all the concerns to be, addressed when they bring it back to the space. So in that case, if that makes sense, Rita, from a procedural point of view, that we have everything we need from the applicants to bring to the ARPB on the 25th of March.
Right. March 5th, March 25th.
March 25th. Are we ready to vote?
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Roche? Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes. Thank you. That takes us on to the second item on the agenda, which, as we've already said, is linked to the first item on the agenda. So can we have a motion to refer that to the 25th? Because we said we consider them both at the same time because they're...
I don't know if you want to look at it, so you have some familiarity in advance, if there's anything you believe would need to be addressed in advance of the next meeting, since you are deferring it, or you can just straight defer it, and it may change over the course of their...
Yeah, because I think there's a very good chance that, as I say, they're an integral part of one another.
Yes, sir.
So I think it's a straightforward, I believe.
And them both at the same time.
Yeah. Because it's fair on the applicant as well, they may chop and change this
Yes, sir.
in terms of what we've asked them to come through. In that case,
Thank you very much.
a motion to defer.
I'll make a motion to defer application 2126 to the March 25th.
Well, my first name's funny too, Geoff.
Read a vote?
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Yeah, you got it, B-A-R-K-T-T.
Mrs. Smith?
Thank you.
Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes, and for the record, I now hand the meeting back to the Chair.
Thank you, Malcolm. Okay, we've covered the first and second items. We're moving to the third. An application by Ocean Marine for a variance in locating a boat lift. Who's ever going to speak on behalf? Okay. Yes, the Cassiopo, okay, is the owner here also?
Mr. Cassiopo is not available.
Okay, right.
We need to swear you in.
Would you identify yourself?
And he needs to be sworn in.
Oh, I'm sorry, you need to be sworn in, you weren't here earlier, okay.
No, sir.
Rita?
Please stand and raise your right hand.
All of us.
Anyone that plans to be speaking on this agenda, please.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Make sure she has your name before you leave.
John, is it?
This is John, I'm Wade Drayton.
Okay.
Stephanie Alford.
Okay, go ahead, you have the floor, and we prefer you to start with the.
Sure, if we could show one
sure.
slide, we should be able to be brief and to the point.
We're just applying everything. Sorry, I was trying to do this.
Thank you so much.
One time, and it'll get you to your next
I'll
slide.
click to the next one. So it is the owner's intent to place a four-post boat lift behind his dock, to place a 28-foot Boston whaler on it. And the variance request is simply that it get moved out of straight center of his view to the south, 16.5 feet, so that when it's a beautiful sunset or a beautiful moonrise or set like it was this morning, that he can see the view, and it'll preserve the value of the home and his view, and will not encroach upon any of the neighbors or the neighborhood. If you recall, there was an easement granted for the stormwater drain off to the side of the dock that the pulpit might be part of. And that we feel that the owner's being unduly penalized because of the replat, so that the mathematics of it all place the requirement for the town dead center on a large dock for a small boat. So we could go to the next one, I think.
You can roll it, one roll. There you go.
And there's the boat photograph and where the lift would be, and the boat would be on the lift.
Any well, yeah, could someone do the quick math on, the setback from the southern end line? There's, is it 160 feet or 100, what is the frontage that you're working off of, do you remember? Okay,
Yeah, I think it's 140 feet.
so you take 30% of that and divide it by 2 and then add 20 feet. I just was wondering how we got to the 48 feet versus they're wanting to be 31.5 feet. Is it easy? No.
No, it is. So the actual, setback, would be 31.5, feet.
Mm-hmm.
But to add the extra 20 feet, which the code requires, actually puts it at approximately 48, feet, from the south, setback.
Mm-hmm.
And, so, as, Mr. Grayton, said, that puts the, if it meets the code, then it puts it more in the center of the dock. And of course, that's what the code was intended on doing, four-post boat lift.
To be in the center.
Well, not necessarily, it doesn't always put it in the center, but what it does is it moves it farther away from the neighbor.
Yeah, right.
From neighbors.
From the.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So when you, sorry, the replatting, wasn't that because Mr. Castiello got both pieces of land? And put them together?
Right, and built the home on the larger parcel of land at the center.
So
There's
that was-
another home at 3184. Right.
Rick, your point is?
My point is that it was replatted several.
Correct.
So
And the easement was granted to the south side of the project.
Have you looked into if you moved it on the other direction off of the north end, wall where it would be, instead of coming from the south headed north, it was moving it, looking at it to the right of the way we're looking there?
Yeah, you would have it even more in the center of the view from the kitchen, and that's part of the, LoJa, yeah.
Well, I believe for us to grant a variance like this, you have to meet a certain number of 7 or 8 different points. And I, it's just my personal opinion in reading them that you don't meet those. As you said, the property was platted, the owner bought it, that would have been where he would have known it had to be when he bought the property.
and he built the house.
And he built the home and the configuration, and so all those considerations should have been made when he acquired, or constructed the home. So I don't think this meets enough of the elements that are necessary for a variance. And you have the right to go through those, you probably have done them already in information that explains to us why you think it does.
In your recommendation to the town commission, you are going to need to identify which criteria you feel are not met. So if you want the applicant to go ahead and address those individually, and, decide which ones you believe are or are not met, that can be part of a motion to recommend granting or denial to the town commission.
Okay, are they in, Trey, are
And those
they
are-
on?
They are included.
They're on page,
They're on,
They're on the.
they're on the
Okay.
town manager's
Right, I'm
staff
sorry.
report, there at the bottom, you have the
Yeah,
first
okay.
two, and the remaining six, totaling eight are
Do you
on.
have this where you can go through, So in reading item one, you need to convince us that this is a special condition that exists peculiar to this property, which are not applicable to other properties in the town of Gulfstream.
And the only thing I can state for that is that this piece of land and this dock is rather large, and, you know, placing it's a small boat on a moderate boat lift, that placing it there would not, impede the aesthetics of the neighborhood at all, including the waterway. So I don't see why it would not be permitted to get a variance because of, as I said, the replat caused the algebra to be such that it's dead center.
See, that knowledge was known when he replatted the property, and I don't see where you meet the conditions of item number one, but we can go through each of them.
Sure, and when the house was designed and the dock was built, they were not going to get a boat and a boat lift. And so things have changed, on the ground that allow a boat lift, was decided to be put in. But when they first designed the dock, they had not planned for that potentiality.
Number two is a very strong point of.
Yeah, his view, he could have said it, what that means is that, he designed the home, and as you say, you don't wanna move it to the north because of it obstructs the view from the kitchen. Well, all of those things could have been taken into consideration in the design and placement of the home on the property.
Right.
I don't know that it would grant any special privilege, to Jim Casio.
No, perfectly agree.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of things that do not comply here, that according to your answers for the 8 conditions, after I read them, and thought about them, I think that there are certainly more than one, one was brought up as being not in compliance, and all that has to occur is one non-compliance to have the variance not approved. I also think that it, that this would impede the value of the neighbor to the south, putting that, granting him that variance.
Right.
In item 5, it says the variance is the minimum variance that would make possible for reasonable use of the land. Well, no, they've got another 60 or 70 feet that are there to use for the same purpose. So it's not like we're restricting the person from having a dock or a lift on their property. There's a big band of usable space there for it. So this is really an unnecessary variance to make it usable by the property owner.
Number 8, it will only affect our property and not our neighbors. I mean, the neighbor to the south is certainly impacted if the bow of the boat is going to be.
That's this shot right here, and this is where the boat would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's talking about a 28-foot boat. I think that they could put as big as a 35-foot boat per code on a lift. There's a restriction on length.
Correct.
So while it's only 28 feet now, it could eventually be a 35-foot boat, which is another 3.5 or 4 feet further to the south if you take the midpoint. I would think we want to recommend denial to the council based on maybe numbers 1, 4, 5, and 8, without even addressing all of them. There's enough of them that number 2 also. Okay. Do you have a chance to argue with this over these points now?
I don't.
Or you can have another chance at the town council meeting to do
Sure.
the same thing.
The benefit in identifying the criteria that are not met and recommending denial on that basis is that the applicant then has the opportunity before the town commission to address those specific criteria.
Right. So would somebody like to make a motion? Malcolm, would you handle it? Thanks.
I'll make a motion to deny the application as presented because it does not meet the 8 points, the points of the criteria needed to approve a variance with specific reference to point 1, 2, 4, 5, and 8.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? If not, Rita, would you please call?
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Roche?
Yes.
And Chairman Smith?
Yes. Thank you. So you see the next date, well, you can find out from the town when the next meeting is, and you certainly have a right to go to the town itself. And you will need to rebut or take a position on at least those 5 points that were in the motion, okay?
April 9th, wait.
Okay. Bob's in. Bob, you're gonna do both of the next 2?
That's fine.
Okay, so your first one is for Vinnie.
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Heather Binney. I'm the owner.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you all. We are here to hopefully secure our permits to complete our landscaping and to put in a patio. To give everyone a little scope of the project, there's a knee-high wall in my backyard that is quite unsafe. If a child were to fall off of it, or frankly, any of us were to step off of it, it's really dangerous. I'm looking to push that wall back to the appropriate property line distance, to put in a patio and frankly get in my privacy back with some thick shrubs and plantings on property. Happy to answer any questions. Bob will be doing the work. And we would like to get started soon, hopefully, to get done.
Hey, Bob, would you explain the wall movement? So there's a wall that's 4 or 5 feet into the property now. You're gonna remove the wall and put a new wall, a new retaining wall?
Yes, we want to back it up to the existing wall that's back there. There's a 5-foot bed.
Oh, there's a wall
The
behind the wall.
There's a wall and a fence on the back property.
I couldn't see that from the road. Okay.
We have to put a 34-inch anchor block wall in just to hold the dirt up in the back. And then we were going to plant on top of that wall quite a few trees to block out and provide some coverage for Heather and family.
From the neighbor to the east.
Yes.
Quite
I mean, full disclosure, I think all our neighbors want their sense of property back. Our
Yeah.
property is a little unusual. Our neighbors behind us are all 10 feet above us.
Yes.
So we just want to be able to,
Is the wall that's there a retention wall, or does it just make their backyard not as steep?
it's the stupidest wall you've ever seen.
5 feet off the back of the
That's
house.
the way you're describing the wall? Okay. So there's a wall there now that is a retaining wall, strong enough that you're gonna have to reinforce it?
There's an existing retaining wall on the property line on the northeast corner.
Yep.
That's staying, and we're coming in front of that with a retaining wall to hold up the dirt and be able to landscape on top.
I believe your original survey has the wall on it. To be in your packet. Yeah. So you can see that wall.
So your property is currently, cleared of low growth. I think most of the significant trees are still there. Would you Bob, take a few minutes and go over what you're gonna do in the landscaping around the low areas? And also, are you gonna bring the driveway, the paver's driveway, all the way in on the north side? And is it gonna stop and then there's sod and then pick up again north of the pool?
Yes, we're proposing a extension of the pool patio off the pool to the north. And so
The same brick,
on the corner.
same brick, matching brick, whatever?
Yes. On that northeast corner is the retention area, which will be landscaped and sodded.
So water from the property is gonna drain to that northeast corner?
Yes, sir. So Tom, right now, there's a wall that runs right here. It goes over, across the front.
So can you, Sarah, can you just back, yeah, thank you.
Maybe that'll help.
So, yeah, so, I'm not gonna be able to see it, but now you understand why I call this the stupidest wall. So, there's this wall right here,
Right.
right? It's, if you were a kid and playing up here on this elevator part of and fell off or tried to walk to the pool, I'd be living in the ER. Like, it's just not safe, so we're looking to push this wall back to the property line. It will line up with where the current wall here is by the pool, and this area will be captured for patio and flat. I believe we've adhered all the drainage. You have a drainage plan in front of you.
It'll be all at the same level as what's around the pool now?
Yes.
Yes.
How high is that?
It's, they have it in front of them. So 5 feet.
Okay, so the wall is only gonna be 5 feet,
Oh, the wall will be 36,
how,
34 inches.
34 inches.
almost inches?
Yeah.
And then
On the
the
bottom
wall after that?
This is the back retaining.
So the back, the back retaining wall will be pushed. It'll just be a low wall.
So how high will the other wall be?
It won't.
There's only one little wall that's gonna stay there?
The whole wall will be the same height of 34 inches around the property.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on top of that wall, we will plant hedges and trees and give you your privacy back. So.
Can we see that, please?
Yeah, of course. So this is a current, drawing of the house. So this is that wall right here.
So this is me over here.
You're up here.
Okay. Oh, there's the pool.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
So this wall gets pushed in line parallel to here. And I will, underneath it.
Now, is this a wall on Kyle's property against her pool?
So this is for Kyle's wall right here. So this is a bed for us to plant hedges.
Okay,
So right here. Here's what it is.
all right. And so the fence that's there now, that old fence that's there, that will come down and will there be something in place of that?
It looks like.
Planting?
Yeah.
Planting?
Yeah.
Okay. No walls?
No. It's only a 34, we just need a retaining wall.
But this right here, this is where my property, there'll be no wall.
No. So
No,
this
your
is
wall stays.
so this is your property actually.
Okay.
And so this
Now, this shows the ankle wall?
that's my ankle, that's your ankle.
Will there be a wall?
Then it'll be, they have to be that church area.
And this becomes, how high will this be? 34 inches.
Okay.
And the wall that she wants to take out is literally this far from the house. And then it rises up, and then she wants to flatten that to the back of the pool. Yeah, I was just trying to say that unlike a lot of these members, in my capacity as president of the Civic Association, I walked the property with you, and you explained it And now that I see the pictures that Bob has had done, you know, I can fully understand why you want to do that.
Thank you.
But,
Bob, Ms. Denny, I would recommend that you show, that you
Sure,
show
yeah.
them the other color renderings.
I have them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew they were there, I was just talking about the larger ones, if you needed to see it in a larger.
Pretty good.
Well, this looks, yeah, I mean,
I did say, mention in my,
I know what you're gonna say, Greg.
yeah, Mr. Chairman, I did mention in my staff report that we did not have, the pervious and non-pervious area, numbers. But I did receive those yesterday, from Mr. Joe Pike at Enviro Design, and they meet, the town's code.
Okay, thank you.
And then there's another exhibit that's in front of the wall.
Now, the trees we're putting in are California trees, so we keep them at a 14, 15-foot height, we hedge them. So it's gonna act as a good screen for everybody.
For the back?
Yeah.
Okay. Same thing, it's gonna wrap around on the north, for about half of the north side?
Yes, actually, that's gonna be Aretha palms,
Uh-huh.
which blocks some of the condo out.
And we have a picture of what you're gonna do, this is what you're proposing in the front, sort of?
Yes, sir. And mainly all the existing stuff that was there is there, we
It's
cleaned
all
it up.
old stuff.
The band room was in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
We're just going into new understory plants.
Yeah, Heather,
Yeah.
on my side, on the south side,
Yep.
what landscaping are you proposing?
We're doing just a hedge on the property line.
What kind of hedge, do you know?
It is,
Photocarpus.
there we go.
And you're gonna keep all that low, or?
On your side, we wanna keep it at the 6-foot, 7-foot level.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, privacy for both.
That's okay, yeah.
Oh,
Any questions or comments? By the way, I have a quick comment, you know, when you do this again, before you begin it, you're supposed to come before the town and before the architecture review, so we're kind of doing this in reverse order.
I've learned, don't worry.
Please with what we're doing, but we're yelling at this guy on the right here a little bit, so, okay.
I'm feeling it, Tom.
Yeah.
All right.
we've got another one coming up too, right?
Yes.
We get to yell them again?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I leave before you get to the next one?
Okay, are we ready for a motion?
Yes. In that case, I'd like to make a motion to approve a land clearing permit to remove previously existing landscape materials.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah.
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes.
I'd like to make a further motion to approve a level 2 architectural site plan review to install replacement landscaping material and construct an anchor block retaining wall in the rear yard based on the finding that the landscaping, site plan and construction of the wall meets the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. Any minor modifications in the approved landscaping should be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications to the approved landscape plan should be submitted to the ARPB for review and approval before any commencement of work.
I'll second the motion.
So the discussion is not, Rita, please?
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes. Thank you.
Tom, when could we start the project?
This afternoon, right?
They can, you,
Great.
No, you can begin.
you can.
Yes, yeah, that'll be all right.
Thank you.
Bob and Ms. Betsy, you remember, I need to talk to you about the wall and permits. I know you say that it doesn't require one, but I need to talk to you about it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Rita.
Step back,
There you are. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Now, this is the next application from the Conklins, and Bob, are you the representative?
Yes, sir.
Okay, are they here? No, not here, okay. This was the Pete Dye residence, to get your orientation towards it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, Bob, explain to us what you've done and what you're going to do.
So what we did, we took out the dead ficus head, basically from white slide damage, on the north property line. And with an existing, dead head back here also. No, we're not touching anything across the back of the south property line. We are installing a new 6-foot covered carpet hedge from your property to the front here. And we're gonna get new gate here, fencing, gate, and a photo carpet hedge in front of the new fence.
Where was that first gate?
Where's the what?
The first gate that you mentioned?
This is the side gate.
The side gate.
Are you gonna do a fence there?
We're gonna run the fence all the way to the back. Yeah, keep the dog in.
I just said, it says in the application, some fencing, so can we be a bit more specific about exactly like where it goes?
So the neighbor's property, between the two of them, there was, the fence, was really no fence there. When we took it out, the fence got destroyed. We wanted to put a new fence in to tie the neighbors in, keep the dogs in, and the new fence on the north side. And on the south side, we just want to come off the south side of the house with a new aluminum bronze fencing.
Right.
And then put a carpet hedge in front, and then the rest of the landscape is just, low ground cover and to the existing trees that were there.
There was a really big, sea grape tree in the front island,
Yes, sir.
and it's sort of gone, it's been brought down to a certain level. Is there any planting gonna go on in there other than what's there now?
Tom, that tree was cut before. We never cut the tree. We trimmed off some of the round.
I mean, 'cause there's.
Yeah, I mean, it was existing. Mr. Dye had it in there. And I think you guys, was that cut? Were you around when that was cut?
It's our understanding that that was cut by, Mr. Conklin or his agent, and we have, what we believe is sufficient, corroborating evidence to show that.
I was there when it was cut. I happened to be passing by and I saw your crew.
They were trimming and cleaning in there, but we did not cut that tree.
Trimming was
If you go look at it, you'll see the rotted trunks in it.
very impressive.
Is that going to be replaced though, or are we not replacing it?
No.
I saw on your,
If you go look at the tree, Greg, the tree's rotted. So somebody cut it at one point.
Mr. Glenn, I can get my maintenance person to come in here and show the board the pictures that he took of that tree on February 14th.
Right.
The day you guys started the work there.
Right, what we did is we cleaned up the existing cuts.
And the pictures that he took were clean cuts. Those were not old ones. They had just occurred.
Yes, we trimmed up, the top of those stumps were rotted, and we brought those stumps down.
In any case, on one of your site plans here, you have indicated add one sea grape tree, 26 feet.
I mean, if you want the tree, we'll put the tree in.
It's on your plan.
Well, we put it in because you guys wanted it. When we found out,
No, we want it because.
we never put down a canopy tree on Polo Drive.
Okay, well, someone did, and so, go ahead.
So you agree to add that tree as proposed on the.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Okay, good.
It's a big tree. Okay.
Okay.
It's gonna go in the island.
Yes, sir.
Mostly sod and low planting.
Yes, sir.
On the south side, our neighbors are here to the south side.
North side.
Oh, you're on the north side. Are you okay with, for privacy purposes and what's?
Yeah, I
Could
think
you
so.
explain it again, Bob? In the back, it looks like a couple of existing big
The
foxtails.
neighbors have a 10-foot coat of carpet, beautiful hedge here. And all we need to do is put a fence in front of it to secure the property, and add the gate here, and then extend the coat of carpet all the way to Polo.
Yeah, we actually have like 10 feet around the electric.
Yeah, I mean,
Italian.
I'll run it to the street, or, I mean, just
I think-
view lines is,
But the fence is on your side of the road.
yeah, on the property line, yeah.
And, you're not gonna plant anything on your, in front of the fence.
It's really hard to
on
get
your side.
anything to grow in there,
I-
there's no light at all.
You tell me, I'm hopeful that approach will allow the other side of ours to.
I think it will grow better,
Yeah,
we took all that dead fiber out.
Yeah. You can tell by our heads right here how good it will look
Beautiful.
for both sides.
Yes, yes,
It's got some,
yeah.
but you are gonna run this tower right on
From the corner of your fence post, straight on down to Polo,
in. Great.
And that will be right on the line.
property line.
Okay, and then south of that, along it, in front of it, you're gonna grow a darvis.
Yes.
Okay. How tall?
6 foot.
6 feet tall?
Will it grow to the height of the other one?
I'm sure he would like it to, he loves your hedge.
Yeah. So, but no, this is what, when looking at the plan here in the office, it wasn't totally clear that this whole line was gonna be covered.
Yes, sir.
And we, not against anything, but just wanted to be sure something's gonna cover some of this
Yes,
view here like it was before. You know.
Yep.
Very good.
yeah, that's what we want to put this new hedge in.
And, so that was ours. And
Okay.
so we're good.
Okay.
Great.
You wanna run that hedge all the way out, on the south side, you've got the hedge all the way to the property line, the west property line. You're gonna, for some reason, leave a gap there on the north side. Is there a reason for that? Right there, yeah.
I was gonna run it down to 10 feet off of Polo, just for site triangle here, pulling out onto Polo.
We have some of the equipment that the telephone company, and we have planted out that.
Blocks around it.
Yeah.
Is it right there in that corner?
Yeah. And it's post purpose and it's right on the property line. So he
It'll
tie right in.
It'll cover it?
Yes.
Okay. Anything to the pool deck or pool at all changing? No?
No, it's just resurfacing and redoing the marsh site coping.
Greg, did you receive the pervious and impervious percentages?
No, sir, but, there's really no change in the pervious versus impervious, circumstances here. As a matter of fact, they're probably reducing the impervious, amount, slightly. So, we believe that that's a wash, and, we really don't need those numbers. Mr. Chairman, I would, mention to you that, the landscaping in the front, the circle, the front edge of that, if you can see, like right here, that, goes up to the
Yep.
edge of the pavement.
Right.
Our codes, require that, that not be landscaped. Now, I will be the first to say that there's many, homes where landscaping that originally was not there has grown into it. And the landscaping that's shown on this plan is already there. And so,
The lighter green is already there, the one in the swale area, or what would you?
yeah, in the swale area.
It's already there, that's not to be planted.
That's existing.
Yeah, that's
This is
already.
Green Island ficus, and then this is, sea grapes.
So that, I just wanted to point that out to you, that it is existing landscaping, and it wouldn't be new, correct?
Right.
And you've already removed the shed on the,
Yes.
okay. And they're relocating the pool equipment that was there, so they did a bunch of work on that side of the house.
Yes, they're just moving the, pumps and filters against the house.
Yeah, they're moving them out of the setback.
In this plan, you're requesting a land clearing permit on land that you have already cleared. And this is a situation which occurred in the last presentation also. And I just want to go on record that you are now fully aware of the fact that you must check with the town and get approval from the town before you start cutting things down.
Yes, sir.
Just as part of that, I just want to address, Mr. Glenn here. So the town code requires you to get approval for tree removal. A lot of the times we can do that as a level one with the town manager. We have a form for that, very easy, come in, get it done. A lot of the times, the same day, the town manager always makes himself available. When there are major landscaping additions or removal, that requires an ARPB approval. So I'm letting you know that that's the case. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So, and the person that determines whether or not it's a major landscaping addition or removal is the town manager.
Okay.
So if you could just in the future, please.
I'm not doing another thing while I'm
No, yes, sir, but I just, you know, there's been a conversation about, well, why didn't these homeowners know? And both these homeowners are new, and they really rely on you in what you're doing, in your knowledge of the town. You do a lot of work in the town. So I just, in echoing some of the comments that have been made, just please in the future, we really want to make sure that our new residents get a good first feeling for the town. And I don't think that's been the case with these two residents because of what happened.
Okay.
So I just want to ask that you work with us to make our new residents feel welcome and not like they're pariahs and that we're coming after them and not letting them do work.
Right.
When what you're doing is the board, I think, appreciates that. I think your customers are very happy, but they get frustrated with the town when you remove a lot of stuff, and our residents also get upset when it then looks like that for 2 months while we get the application together, while we send notices to the neighbors. I mean, we did have some neighbors in here for the previous application. We have some neighbors in here today. It's just very important for the entire process to work well that, like Mr. Roach said, that you come to the town first and make sure that you're helping us take care of our new residents.
Understood.
And I'll get off my soapbox. I apologize. Thank you.
Bill and Nancy, any questions? You okay as neighbors? Any other comments from other neighbors, Rita? Did anybody else
No.
comment?
So, you know, just a comment. I know we have the requirement that the notice goes out, and papers are here to come see, which we did, but you couldn't really tell from the papers exactly what they were going to do. As it turns out, it would have been exactly what we would have asked them. But, you know, even not making it official, but suggest the property line situations, the new proposer might just sit down with the property owner on the other side and say, here's the plan and here's how it works. You, in this case, as their
Yes, sir.
representative, sit
Yeah.
down, say it's gonna run all the way to the street, question answered.
I hear you loud and clear. And, I'm not doing another thing without conversing with neighbors on all sides. Talking to Greg.
Yeah.
And, because what we're up against, like I've got 3 or 4 houses that want their old ficus taken out. So I'm not touching it. I'm gonna meet with Greg on site, show him what we wanna do, and get approval before we do it.
And he was here every day. I can
I know.
testify to that fact.
I've seen him go by every day out in the core. We'll wave and have a friendly relationship.
Loud and clear.
One more comment, I mean, it's just, here, what we have is a nice situation of 2 neighbors working together on the property line,
Correct.
you know, and so that dialogue can save everybody money.
Yep.
I know that.
No, I hear you.
Okay, if not, are we ready to make a motion?
Just before I make the motion.
I'm sorry, well, is Mr. Glenn gonna present the colors? Or have you been asked to present the colors?
No, once again, these, came in, the staff can actually deal with these on a level one.
Okay.
Because, there were some, colors that we really didn't, agree with originally. They have sent us a new color packet here. And as, we do have the, opportunity to come and bring these things to the town, to the, board. And so I just want to show you the color packet that we believe meets the code. But just so that you, if you have any feedback on them, you can provide that to us today.
Okay.
And what I'm gonna do is to show.
These are the house colors.
Shutters and exterior.
Shutters, exterior, and front door.
Correct.
Okay, not the roof.
There's
Roof
no,
set.
garage doors, just
No.
no roof, the roof
No
is staying, the
roof.
white tile.
Correct, correct. So the house, the color that they've chosen is a very pale pink color, which meets the town's codes for this kind of a house. The door. Okay. And the door, a pale gray color. Once again, what do you call these?
They're improved colors.
They're improved
Acceptable.
Yeah, and then the shutters white, so you would have,
Pastel, I think is the word.
pastel is the word that I'm looking for. So the pink house with, the white shutters, the white shutters are they're in black and white as a preferred type color for shutters. So we don't need a motion from you guys today, I just wanted to share these with you because of the extenuating circumstances of how this, this application came about.
Well, and if you want us to see any proposed changes to colors, if they come back with something else, you can absolutely run by it.
Can I just ask for one point of clarification in the second motion, we talked about replacement landscaping. Would it be pertinent to make specific reference to the sea grate, which is sort of a major issue?
Well, it's on the site.
I know, so basically it's encompassed within replacing landscaping material.
If you would like to add that,
Yeah.
including a 26-foot tall
Yeah.
sea tree as indicated on the plan.
Yeah, because it was a point, the major point we discussed. Okay, in that case, I'd like to make a motion to approve a land clearing permit to remove previously existing landscape material.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded, Rita?
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes.
I'd further like to make a motion to approve a level 2 architectural site plan review to install replacement landscaping material, which includes the replacement of a sea grape tree at the front of the property, at 26 feet. And some fencing and adjust the existing driveway and some other existing hardscape. Based on the finding that the landscaping site plan, the adjustments to the driveway and other existing hardscape meet the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. 1. Any minor modifications in the approved landscaping should be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modifications to the approved landscape plan shall be submitted to the ARPB for review and approval before any commencement of work.
I'll second that motion.
Rita?
Mr. Dougherty?
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Mr. Roche?
Yes.
Chairman Smith?
Yes. Bob, any minor modifications?
I hear you, Tom.
Any pause?
Greg and I are gonna get to know each other really well.
Even better.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay,
I
thanks, Tom.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, would anybody want to take a 5-minute break before we start the next thing? Okay, we'll temporarily adjourn for a second. Are you waiting for talk?
Yeah.
Whoa.
You need to swear 1,000 people in, right, Ms. Rita?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get everybody else's name?
So far. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the, I think that's a smart thing to do. And so he's a really good. So far, so good.
Yeah.
They have a relationship with Delta.
I thanked them for bringing their display.
No, they did not.
I mean, after.
But I'm still,
That's my, yeah.
After he's gone through that, I don't think he'll care. He may take us to that.
Jim and Tom.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Let's reconvene the meeting. We are now moving to item 6, application by Carrie Glickstein, Inc. for the property west of the intercoastal and north of Place au Soleil. Carrie, are you going to lead it? We need to swear everybody in, Reed. I think all of these folks weren't here earlier. So would you please stand if you're going to speak?
Please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Thank you. Fortunately, Carrie, we've received a lot of information in advance, and we've all tried our best to review it. So you can give us an override. Sure.
Can you hear me okay? Good morning, Chairman Smith, Vice Chair Murphy, board members, Mr. Dunham, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Mazzaro. My name is Carrie Glickstein, and I'm here as agent for the proposed development before you. As you've reviewed several applications already, I'll keep my remarks brief. First, I'd like to introduce our design team, most of whom are familiar names. Mike Cavelli is the land planner and will present the proposed land use changes. David Bodker is the landscape architect, and his trusty, capable assistant Lindsay will present the proposed site plan and landscape plans. Rusty Coopy is the project architect to answer any site plan and architectural questions. Joe Pike and Brian Beckers are the project engineers to answer any civil engineering questions. As a brief summary, the project represents a reconfiguration of 2 unimproved parcels located at the far northwest boundary of your town. Viewing the parcels as they are, the Gulfstream Golf Club owns approximately 7.5 acres that straddles US 1 from Avenue Soleil to the southern boundary of Boynton Beach. The Florida Inland Navigation District, or FINE, owns approximately 7 acres between the Golf Club parcel and the Intercoastal Waterway and the southern end of unincorporated Palm Beach County. Simply put, the proposed plans contemplate a reorientation of these 2 parcels such that instead of the current east to west division of ownership and uses, there would be a north to south division of ownership and uses. The proposed reorientation, which retains the same acreage as exists now, leaves ownership of the north half with FINE, while the south half becomes an extension of the Place au Soleil community with 14 additional single-family homes. While there is a lot to cover, the proposed development is relatively straightforward in that what is proposed mimics the land use and zoning designations in place for Place au Soleil. The only plan anomaly is the potential incorporation of what is known as the 2900 property, the long, narrow, single-family property abutting the north side of Place au Soleil into our development plan. Briefly, the 2900 property has had a tortured past and in some respects maybe should have never been used for anything other than the public utilities that traverse the property today. In addition to title issues, litigation has plagued the property for over a decade. In this regard, our plans contemplate two scenarios, one that incorporates the 2900 property into our subdivision of 14 homes, and an alternative plan that leaves most of the 29 property as it is. I say most of the 29 property because we have already acquired the west tip, if you will, of that property to bridge the gap between the golf club's property and Avenue Soleil. In short, due to both transactional uncertainties and engineering complexities, we don't know if the 2900 property will ultimately become part of the new subdivision or remain as a separately owned property. For this reason, we'd ask you to consider both plans. The incorporation of the 2900 property is far more complicated, but if we can solve the Rubik's Cube, we would like to proceed with that plan. If we cannot solve the problems, we would proceed without it. In our view, either plan represents a significant improvement to the town in general and Plaza Soleil specifically. By adding 14 new single-family homes to Plaza Soleil, we will be adding to the town's tax base in perpetuity from 14 new homes, while also increasing property values among the existing Plaza Soleil homes, all without adding any additional expenses to the town, and while also moving the fine property to the far north edge of the town, thereby creating a perpetual green space buffer between Gulfstream and both Boynton Beach and unincorporated Palm Beach County. With that introduction, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mike Cavelli to discuss the proposed land use changes, none of which impact the 2900 property as part of our development or not, in that property is already owned for single-family use. And of course, I remain available to answer any questions that I can, and I thank you very much for your time. Mike?
I'm going to give you a small version of the boards, so you better view.
I can pass it to them.
You want to take all of them? I'll just go over it. Okay, there you go. There's for you and Rita.
All right. How do you spell your last name?
Covellli.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would it help if we move those boards closer to you guys?
Well, he just, I think gave us something that's identical to them, Mr. Dunham, so I think we're okay.
All right.
We're good. Okay. Mike Cavelli, I'm the land planner for the project. The first exhibit that's in front of you is not on these boards, but I wanted to give this to you just so you can have a side-by-side view of what the existing property looks like in terms of the parceling and what it ultimately will look like when the land is swapped and everything is completed. So you can see that we've created the two parcels that run between the Intercoastal and Federal Highway. So the fine parcel now has its own parcel with its own access, so it no longer has to have an access easement through other properties if they should ever activate that property to do something in relationship to the Intercoastal. On the next page of that, this is just a general location where the long linear part is the part that will be the actual subdivision. This piece is part of the club right now, and we will be changing the zoning and land use so that it's tied to this parcel with fine. Basically, this piece that's from the club gets changed to a residential zoning and land use, and this piece, which is part of fine, gets changed to a residential land use from the current zoning. But I just want to make sure you understand that this piece, while it's not part of the subdivision, is subject to zoning and land use. And we can see that here. On the land use, this is the next page of the handout, you can see that by the color of the light blue with, of the fine piece here, and then this is the club parcel. This is recreational right now, and this is public facility. Ultimately, when it's finished, the south parcel will be, single family, and we're changing this part of the club to public facility so that all of the fine piece will be public facility. Likewise with the zoning, or with the same thing where the current, you can see the current zoning pattern, and once it's done, single family here with public facilities there. You have a comprehensive, package in your backup that we tried to address all of the issues for this in a comprehensive manner so that we're looking at zoning, land use. There is a small text change with one setback for swimming pools on the north part of the property. Site plan, concurrency, and the subdivision of this, so that rather than like some projects come in piecemeal, we wanted to give you a comprehensive package with the report. And I know there's a lot of information in that report, but in a nutshell, essential services are all adequate in terms of water, sewer, parks, schools, roads, all that. Traffic is at a minimum on this. It's really de minimis. There's not that much traffic. Peak hour trips are very low. So we don't have an issue with any of that. Water sewer capacity is good. Trash capacity is there. All the capacities are there, which is part of the evaluation that's in the report you have that's required for the land use amendment. This is a large scale amendment, so it goes through some other reviews more than if it was just less than 10 acres. We would have to transmit it to the state, but so you have a very, very comprehensive report in terms of that. Zoning and land use is only for, we talked about the possibility of getting the other parcel to the south between Place of Soleil and this parcel. That's already zoned in land use, so in terms of zoning and land use, this parcel, as you see it on the exhibits, are really all that needs to be changed. I think that's basically what I have for zoning, land use, and an overview of what we've done in the report. I guess Dave will continue to show you the landscaping and the subdivision part of this. If you have any questions, we can do that now, or we can do it at the end. Everyone see this?
Yes.
So for the landscape plan, along the federal highway frontage, which is right here, we are proposing a 6-foot-high masonry precast wall. It'll be painted white. And on the federal highway side of the wall, the planting will include a 4-foot Clusia hedge alternating with bougainvillea vine. On the inside of the wall, 16-foot height fishtail palms will be used to screen the commercial properties across federal highway from this development. So that's all in this area right Along the south property line, west of the entrance, the existing 6-foot-high ficus hedge that exists in this area right here will be removed and replaced with a 6-foot-high clusia hedge. The ficus hedge is getting old and kind of sparse. Behind that hedge, we're going to place a 6-foot-high black vinyl coated chain link fence. And behind that, we're going to relocate some stable palms for additional screening. Along the south property line of the east side of the entrance drive, also a black vinyl coated chain link fence will be placed there. And 4-foot-high clusia hedge will be planted on the outside of it, and buttonwood trees will be planted north of it. So that's in this green area right in here. Live oaks planted 30 foot on the center will surround what we're calling the green space of the park here. So that's here all the way around there. And a split rail fence will be used along this new entrance drive, going here, and planted in there are Vera wood trees circling that and lining the drive. The existing pump station and proposed lift station will be screened with clusia hedge. And we're proposing areca palms all along this north property line. And that'll actually be on the fine track, and we've gotten permission to plant those there, but that's for screening to things to the north. Sylvester date palms, annuals, clusia hedge, crotons will be at the different entrance points to the new property here. So there'll be date palms here and here, and here and here to identify those entrance points. The park area will be sodded. We're also proposing a sliding gate and columns at the entrance to Blue Water Cove Drive, which is right here. What we're planning on there is that the gate will open on demand, either from a loop in the road or an electric eye. The street trees along the road are live oaks, and we're going to plant them 1 for 45 foot. So that's what lines this road and goes around the cul-de-sac here. An alley of Vera trees will line this walkway, the pedestrian walkway that goes out to the intercoastal, and there will be an observation deck on the intercoastal at this point here. Along the south property line, we're proposing green buttonwood trees and a clusia hedge. And if the land to the south, the 2900 property cannot be attained, there will be 14 lots instead of the 15 shown here. And what will happen with the landscape plan is it'll simply move up to this line all the way across and won't include the stuff south. And that's it for the Blue Water Cove portion of the project. And I'll be glad to go over the entrance to Paso Soleil, or if you have questions regarding the landscape at this point, or Blue Water Cove.
Dave, a couple of questions. You mentioned about the proposed gate, electrified, pressure.
Right.
What about pedestrians? They can access it if they just want to walk, say, down to the viewing point from...
Yeah, I'm sure there'd be access for them, either a key punch or something like that.
And the other one is, what's happening to the existing Florida pines that are there? I see all the vegetation has been invaded.
Yeah, because of the amount of fill that we're having to put on the property, they're going to be removed.
And you said if you don't do lot 9, lots 13 and 14, which had the larger backyard that extended into that other notch down into the 2900 property, they would just become the same size as the lots on either side?
Yeah, that's
correct. Is that what would happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Would the access to lot 9 go away?
Yes.
Okay.
If you'd like, I could go over that show you.
No. Okay. It's gonna go with it.
Yeah, I mean, this just goes away, so there's just straight 14 lots, all of them on the south side would be the same size essentially.
If we go back to the gate for a minute.
Sure.
What are the residents of Plaza Soleil going to section off area. Has anybody said anything, Rita? You know, like.
Yes, I had understood that the gate was gonna be removed from the plan because of that.
Neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
I think when we met, the intention of the gate was.
It was staff's understanding that would be removed as it's prohibited under the code. Entrance gates are prohibited in the Place House zoning district. And they are asking it to be rezoned to the residential single-family Place House Way. So, you know, if staff had known that, they would certainly recommend that that be removed, or they recommend denial based on that, including something that's prohibited under the code.
So just go back to the Florida pines. How many have we got? Normally on our plans we have existing, and we show they're being removed, just there's no reference to them on the plan whatsoever.
Yeah, I think on the existing tree plan that you'll see that we're calling for them to be removed. That should be. Yeah. Yeah, you have L2 in your package.
L2.
L2? It's in the back of your pack.
I believe there's 17 trees that are
17 pines to be reloaded.
How much is the site gonna have to be raised?
There you go.
If that's in the later presentation, I'll wait.
About an average of 3 feet.
Unfortunately, pine trees have a taproot, so they can't be relocated, and they can't stand compaction on top of their root system at all, so.
I gotta go. And was there some state law when we talked about it, we were talking about this, was there some reference to Florida pines specifically?
Yeah, that I'm not,
Okay.
I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
Any further questions on this part of the project? If not, I'll go through the Ponce Soleil reconfiguration and planting.
The entrance?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
All right, so as part of the entrance to Ponce Soleil from Federal Highway, we're gonna have to reconfigure part of the entrance here to create a turning lane to make a right turn there, and also, come in here, we can make a right turn back to exit on Federal Highway. So when we do the reconfiguration of the paving, then the planting that exists, on the south side of the entrance will have to be reconfigured. And what we're proposing there is to use the same palette of plants that already exist there, just reconfigure it and push it back a little bit. There's 2 royal palms that would be affected by the turn lane, the creation of the turn lane. And so they're pretty tall palms, like 40 foot. So we'd like to take 2 of those palms that we have to relocate and place them on the north side, and then supplement the 2 that are left on the south side with 2 new royal palms, and then put 2 new royal palms on the north side, so both sides of the entrance are similar. The plant palette, again, would be the same that's here on the south side. We would use that same palette of plants on the north side so that they match, they would match ultimately. Around the new lift station that's there, that's 6 feet out of the ground, we would put a 6-foot-high clusia hedge surrounding that and give a little minor access point over here about 2 foot wide, so, repairs could be done or service could be done to it. There's an existing oak tree that would be affected right here. We want to relocate it here. And then there's a big existing clusia hedge in this area, and we want to put tiered down plant material in front of that. There's also an existing gumbo limbo on this side that would be affected by the construction of the turn lane. So we push that over and relocate it here. And to match that one, we put a new gumbo limbo in here. So we're trying to make the sides look the same.
You show on here a entrance sign. Will it be Place au Soleil, or will it be,
It'll be what it is now. And
It's
that
the same.
sign exists there.
it's there.
It's there to say Place au Soleil.
It won't be branded anyway with Blue Water Code or? Okay.
So back to what we're looking at, the changes would be if you don't do 2,900 is there, you know, you're just gonna run a straight line back, Dave, you know, the double notches on the bottom, you know, the extensions from us 14 and 13 and also about 9, they're just not gonna be part of it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see this heavy black line on this plan, and I
Yeah.
believe it shows up on your smaller versions.
Yep.
So, yeah, create the property line right there, move this lower planting up the screen.
And I think you mentioned it, you've gotten permission from the vine people to actually plant, the Eureka palms on their property, right up against yours, but on their property.
We had asked for an easement for it, and I don't think they wanted to grant that, but they did give permission to plant the Eureka.
You just have to irrigate them, but.
Yeah,
they're
we're
gonna-
good up to the north.
Could you repeat, I'm unclear on the whole gate situation.
Okay.
I'm fuzzy.
I don't know if you can see at the bottom right here.
Yeah, I might see that, yeah.
Let me, excuse me, Dave, let me kind of just short circuit that since we've had a long morning.
Carrie, I need you to go to the mic, I'm sorry.
We didn't want to submit another plan submittal, because the volume of paper that you're already dealing with, we didn't want it to get even more, voluminous. So we understand that the date, Ms. Smith, to answer your question, it has been communicated to me that the existing residents would prefer that there not be a gate. The rationale being that they view this, as do we, as an extension of that community. So the gate would, in their view, and I can't, with a straight face, disagree that it would augment that part of the property in such a way that the similarities perhaps are just getting too much or too distant. So you can, whatever the proper way of just surgically removing that from your review today is fine by us. We just didn't want to resubmit more paper trying to explain that.
So no gate.
No gate.
Just no gate.
Right.
Okay, surgically removed. Okay.
Yeah. I would also, just excuse me, Dave, Vice Chair Murphy, to your questions on the existing trees. I'm a big proponent of saving what's there to the extent it can be saved. I've had an arborist a certified arborist go out and look at these pines specifically. What you heard from Dave is accurate. In addition to that, I've been told that most, if not all of the existing pines that are there have what's called a pine beetle. Some of those trees are what was described to me as looking alive, but are either on borrowed time or are being, just the root systems it's just a symptomatic of South Florida that's with that slash pine species of tree that, and there's just nothing you can do about it. And as much as I would like to relocate those trees around the subdivision to give it a more of an immediate established feel, we've just been advised that slash pine cannot be transplanted.
Thank you for the clarification.
Anything else regarding the planting?
No, I think we're okay.
Good morning, First Cookie, project architect. I know we're not going over architecture this morning, but I just wanted to go over the site plan and show you the difference between the incorporation of the 2900 property and not having it. If the 2900 property is not incorporated into the site plan, we have 14 lots, which is that rectangular area zone as such. We would not have any access to the 2900 property at the end of the cul-de-sac. That's the main difference. So if we have the 2900 property, lots 13 and 14 would expand to the south, and lot 9 would be created with an access way from the cul-de-sac to that. The density, if the 2900 property is incorporated, the density of the units actually goes down quite a bit. And not incorporating, we still have a very good density, but all the lots would be basically the same size. We made them wider rather than deep to allow for more light in the houses. Of course, we understand that no house can look the same and do all that, so we've taken that into account. But the wider lot and shallower lot allows us to put a nicer house on the property, have more light. In doing so, in cutting down the depth a little, we have asked that the LDR state that on, not the waterfront lots, because the waterfront lots, the pools would be on the intercoastal, which would maintain exactly the same code as is existing. But on the other lots, we ask that we have a 10-foot rear setback to the pool instead of a 15-foot setback to the pool, which will allow us to push the pool away from the house a little further. On the north side, we have all the areca palms going up to the fine property. On the south side, if we don't have the 2900 property, the 2900 property takes up that whole room, so we're not affecting the neighbors, per se, on either side. So that was it just allows us to pull the pool away from the house a little further, which is nice. Other than that, we'll be coming in with individual plans for all the lots that are required.
Roughly, do you envisage them being some built to spec at the same time, or which would be on demand?
I think this is gonna be depending on how its sales go, on what happens. I don't think we've gotten that far yet. We're just trying to. I'm sorry.
So, I just asked, do you envisage sort of constructing to spec homes, or will they literally be as demand comes in? Just from a construction point of view.
Sure, no, I know that would be a very pragmatic concern of this board, and I would imagine that there would, in all likelihood, be 2 to 3 starts initially. All of those initially would be spec homes. There's momentum, I'm hopeful that there's more overlap. I don't think there would be more at any given time, more than 2 to 3 starts at the same time.
Just on the construction, do you envisage it taking place via the new entrance, or will there be access for a period of time from federal?
I think what we've discussed is that all of the site work traffic use the existing entrance into that property now, which is just north of, and we would like to keep that in place as long as we can. At some point, construction traffic would just use the same entrance as everything else.
Gary, stay there a second, or maybe Rusty. So on the north side, I understand you want a 10-foot setback for the edge of the pool versus 15, but on the south side, there's all sorts of utility easements. You're not allowed to build a pool. Are you also wanting the 10-foot setback on the south side from the edge of the utility easement line or the property line?
Well, the south side, not incorporating the 2900 property, doesn't have the easements on our property, so we'd
Okay.
ask for the 10 feet there.
Okay, so if you don't do lot 9, then you want the same 10-foot on the north, okay.
Yes,
But-
sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
The easements are located
On the 2900.
On it.
2900 property.
Yeah, so while we're on the easements, could you, I guess there was something in here, a color-coded thing that showed the easements. Yeah, they're really odd. Can you just, with your finger, show me, maybe probably carry on the bottom picture more than the top.
So
The golf course has an easement, right?
the golf club has an easement. Right now, there's no easement at all on the golf club property because they own the property.
Right.
Let me show you, it goes from here.
The pump?
Yeah, this is the reworked plan, so you're gonna have to follow me here, but the 2900 property currently, the north boundary is right along this side. So having said that, all of those easements currently are running down through here.
They're all in the 2900 property.
On the 2900 property. So if we were getting the 2900 property, then those easements, all that piping would be relocated.
Part of let me go back to your question first, Tom, and then I'll circle back to the complexities of the 2900 property. From the pump station, from the pump house now, the club has its primary water source that almost comes diagonally to just about where this intersection of lot 14 is, where, I'm sorry if you can't see, and from this point all the way down to the intercoastal, there is a 12-foot utility easement which houses the club's water line. In addition, as you see from that color map, the town also has a potable water line that traverses the 2900 property for some distance and then takes a detour to the south and kind of on a diagonal ends up, as you can see on that map.
Yeah.
It's part of the complexities of integrating the 2900 property are that we have looked at re-engineering this plan to essentially move all those utilities from the 2900 property to this property.
And getting rid of the easement.
And the easements would no longer be needed,
Except for.
You'd run them down the middle of the road, maybe?
down the middle of the road.
Okay. Something like that, okay.
That's the current easement.
Yeah.
Which is no small undertaking. And it's it's doable. We've had many meetings we've got very capable civil engineers, and we've met extensively with site work contractors that would be doing the work. However, it's my experience that this sort of thing, just never goes as contemplated, and, when you're trying to connect new pipe to very old pipe before it makes that transition under the intercoastal waterway, there's a lot of unknowns in that regard, and, when you're dealing with a town's potable water main and the golf club's only water source, there's just very little margin for error. And in connection with other issues in relation to that property, if you were to ask me which direction do you think this is going, I would tell you that if I had to pick one, it's going to be without the 2900 property for various reasons. But we've tried to present to you the most complex possibility, with an alternative being involving a much simpler proposal. And because of those complexities, I think that that's probably the direction that this is going. Just to give you some guidance and to manage your expectations, that's what I would.
Thank you. I think, any other questions for Rusty? No? Is there a fourth item, Terry, or? No.
The civil engineer is here, but really just to answer questions if you had engineering questions.
Give us the feedback from Place au Soleil. You probably had some, of course. Positive and not necessarily suggestive language.
With the exception of the gate, I've heard nothing but positive comments. I think most people feel that it's value added to their community. People recognize construction brings temporary inconvenience, but, viewing this on the other side of completion, I think it's very complimentary to Place au Soleil. It almost is a natural extension of what's there, and I think if you could go back in time and look at how that property was created, you would probably not have a home on the 2900 property, and that would be just a public easement area, and the north part of this property would be already integrated into Place au Soleil.
And I'd like to support that, Terry, in terms of you did invite everybody to the presentation, you explained what was happening, and you addressed the concerns of everybody there, and the questions, not just concerns, and I didn't hear anything untoward.
With respect to that, can we just have any declaration of ex parte communications? It sounds like maybe
It was a group meeting, and there were about 100, probably about 100 people there.
I would say it's about right.
And just the scope of what was discussed, I guess, was
You did a preliminary presentation, and you made it very clear it's preliminary because nothing was fixed or whatever. It was an idea that you wanted to sound out feedback initially. About 100 people.
Okay, and has anyone else had any ex parte regarding the application? Okay, all right, thank you.
The town owns actually some of the land at the entranceway.
That's right, Chairman.
So we've got the town owning part of the entranceway.
That's right. So, I've corresponded with Mr. Glickstein regarding a developer's agreement where he's going to set forth what the town's obligations and expectations are with the improvements that are going to be made to that entryway. I mean, it's an important part of the project because we are adding an additional lane of traffic coming in. We think that will be very beneficial to some maybe stacking issues on Federal Highway. And he's agreed that to make some improvements, hooking up the guardhouse to the sewer system that's going to be servicing these new homes, and abandoning our septic system, which will need to be done because that currently exists on the south side of the entryway. So this is all kind of part of this application. That's not anything that's before you. It was just mentioned in the town manager's staff reports. That's something that we are working on. So that'll be in the process and a condition of the approval once it gets to the town commission.
I have a question about the pool setback. It's really actually, there's not a variance we're looking for, it's a text.
That's right. So if you amend the code to allow something, then a variance is no longer required. Like, for example, the variance that we just had earlier today regarding the location of the 4-post boat lift. If we decide to change the code and allow 4-post boat lift in the location that he wanted, that would be a change to the code that would then obviate the need for him to get a variance. He would no longer need a variance because that would be permitted. So this would be a change to the code that would permit a 10-foot setback in the rear of these houses for pools in this subdivision. And then only this subdivision. I mean, and I think the thinking that was set out, I can't remember if it was Mr. Coopy, mentioned that these lots are longer and less deep, so I think that was the thinking of why they're asking for this, because it is a unique situation. I think, again, that's just the reasoning. I'm not expressing an opinion on that, but that's the thinking of this specific amendment to the code for that purpose.
Ms. Smith, if I may, the other rationale in that regard was, we somewhat had to, as I mentioned in my introductory remarks, that Find is ending up with the same 7 acres they have now, and for various reasons, that was important, just in the nature of what Find's charter allows them to do. And so, to some extent, the depth and width of these lots is an extension of trying to maintain that same acreage before and after. Having seen what Rusty can do architecturally, I think his comments were spot on, that a wider lot allows some interesting things architecturally, but it limits that rear. And in this particular subdivision, where it's the only place this text amendment would apply, to the north is Find's property that will remain that way in perpetuity. And to the south, we essentially may have either, if the Turner property or that 2900 property is not included, there is a long, essentially a 100-foot wide driveway that separates this property from the rest of Place Soleil. If in fact the 2900 property is incorporated, that text amendment would not be needed for the south side, because those lots now would have additional depth.
But essentially, you're not really impacting anybody under this.
That's correct.
While we're on that, while we're on that, Rita, I know we said about the outreach that's taking place. Has there been any other formal feedback from neighbours?
My office has received no.
Georgette, Curtis?
I don't have any.
Okay. Carrie, we know you've done a lot of work for a long time. It's evolved to this, and I think our committee feels you've done a really, really great job. It's a great presentation. Are we in a position to make some motions? Malcolm, would you mind doing that?
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve a comprehensive plan amendment.
I'm sorry, it's a recommendation.
Oh, sorry, recommendation. So, I'd like to make a recommendation to approve a comprehensive plan amendment to convert the site's existing future land use designation from P, public facilities, and OR, outdoor recreation, to RS, single family residential, and P, public facilities.
I'll second that. That's been moved and seconded. Rita?
Mr. Doherty?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
No, I'm gonna
Vice
say
Chair. And we didn't even have an election. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Trust me, you don't want it. Chairman Smith?
Yes. Okay, I'd like to make a motion for a recommendation to rezone the rezoning of the newly configured 7.64 acres from P, public facilities, and OR, outdoor recreational district to RS-P, single family residential Plaza Soleil.
I second the motion.
Rita?
Mr. Doherty.
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Roche. Chairman Smith.
I'd like to make a further motion, but before I do, can I just ask for some clarification? Are we having two motions here? One for the with 2,900 or one with, and one without?
So this, the application may change before the town commission meeting based on some of the comments and discussions that we've had. If you want to go ahead and make those motions as
they're presented.
As they're presented and as, I believe this would include the 7.64 acres. I think that would be with including Plaza Soleil, or is that? Okay.
So
I'm sorry, including 2,900?
No,
not.
it doesn't, because
Okay,
the 14 only relates to the.
So we can make those recommendations, and then depending on what Mr. Glickstein decides, that he can make sure he has a final application for the town commission. So these are fine as is, thank you.
I'd like to make a further motion to recommend a level 3 site plan stroke subdivision approval to create a 14-lot subdivision on the rezoned 7.64 acre parcel of Plaza Soleil addition number 3. At this point, should I also?
We want to include removal of the gate.
I'm just going to say, this is the thing for, please, sorry, so that's the first point. The next point is continuation that confirm there will be no gate dividing Blue Water Cove and the existing Plaza Soleil property.
I second the motion.
Rita?
Mr. Doherty.
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Roche.
Yes.
Chairman Smith.
Yes.
I'd further like to make a motion to recommend the approval of a concurrency certification to confirm municipal services are available for the proposed 14 units.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Rita, please.
Mr. Doherty.
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Roche.
Yes.
And Chairman Smith.
Yes.
And finally, a motion to recommend the approval of a text amendment to amend the RS-P single-family residential Plaza Soleil regulations to allow for a 10-foot rear setback for pools in Plaza Soleil addition number 3.
I second the motion.
Rita, please.
Mr. Doherty.
Yes.
Vice Chair Murphy.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Roche. And Chairman Smith.
Thank you. So I think that we've made all of our recommendations to move forward. It now goes to the town council, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're finished with the application. Is there anything else on the agenda?
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Would like to just interject that the quality of the presentation was really a byproduct of town's collaboration with a great design team. I'd like to thank town staff, Greg, Rita, for your help. I know it's been a long and Marty.
And Marty, right? Are there any items, by staff to be brought forward to the meeting?
No, sir.
No? If the board members have any comments or anything they want to that? No? The public, there's no public here. We are adjourned. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, everybody.
3 hours.
I told you you needed 3 hours, Marty.
I know. Yeah. That's just